Hi, I'd like to invite you to join me in the very first video snippet from the now video book, Follet. Follet is a story about an incubus just doing his job, and music, and pie. And if you're sitting comfortably, we can begin. When I want you in my arms, when I want you and all your charms, whenever I want you, all I have to do is dream. Follet smiled as he sang Phil's harmony. The big old caddy flew through the night, the radio dial glowing softly. He was way out in the country on a two-lane road headed east. There were no lights except for the spilled stars of the Milky Way and a Cheshire Cat moon just rising. He was getting an AM station, WINC in New Orleans, on the skip. It might have been the radio waves bouncing off the ionosphere that allowed him and the others working in dreams to hear the songs that people had written about their dreams. But Follet and his kind were the only ones who heard WINC, and WINC played to its audience. All I Had to Do Is Dream was written by Felice and Boudleaux Bryant and was a favorite of the listeners of WINC. The radio station played the Everly Brothers version every night, throwing in the French version Pendant la Vacances every now and then for its Cajun fans. It was a beautiful song, but some of its allure might have been because of the scandal. Felice was a succubus who fell in love with her client, Boudleaux, and left the business for him. The lovers did just fine making music together, but Felice had entered forbidden territory when she entered his dreams and he entered her heart. But none of that mattered to Follet. He was working. He saw a glow on the horizon, a soft yellow dome of light that began to overpower the starlight. He glanced at the fuel gauge and saw that it was time to fill up and stretch his legs. As he pulled into the little town, the neon lights of Alice's truck stop beckoned, and he pulled up to the pump. He got out, stretched, and walked to the rear of the car, letting his hand brush her beautiful fin as he walked by. He walked around to the pump, choosing high octane. We always called her Ethel, he wisecracked to himself. Pulled the hose to the fuel filler door. He squeezed the handle and looked around. Alice's was a small place, 6 gas pumps, 8 diesel bays with dual pumps, a diner, and a 10-room motel. Alice herself was perched on the roof of the diner, all in neon, with a flashing right arm that looked like the radiant waitress was offering the hungry traveler a glowing slice of pie. Pie, Follet said to himself. He got back into the Eldorado and drove over to a parking space in front of the entrance to the diner. He walked in and over to the cashier to pay for the gas. The register was at one end of a formica-topped counter with chrome-based, red vinyl cushioned stools running its length. Red vinyl tuck-and-roll booths lined the front of the diner under chrome-edged windows that ran from the ceiling to the tabletops with a view of the parking lot. The place was almost empty, and the only waitress patted her piled-up red hair and walked over to him. "I put in $20 from pump 6, he told her. "You hungry, darling?" She spoke softly while she looked him up and down. "I can put the gas on your tab." "That would be great." Follet glanced at her chest and saw a red Alice embroidered on the blue cotton of her sleeve. "Alice, I could sure go for some coffee and pie." He noticed a hint of a smile as Alice told him, "The coffee's fresh and hot, but the pies in the display case aren't worth eating. If you're willing to try something special, I can whip you up a local treat," and she winked. "Thanks," Follet said, and walked to a booth. Alice came to the table with a steaming cup of coffee and a heavy earthenware mug. "Cream? No thanks. I'll be right back with what you want." Follet looked out the window at the pools of light that covered the fuel bays and the parking lot. It was late, but he usually worked at night. He wondered where he would be working tonight. Before he could get lost in his thoughts, Alice returned with what at first looked like an ice cream cone filled with a bright red fruit and a big smile on her face. "You stopped by at the right time, stranger. I was out yesterday and found a thicket of strawberry bushes. After all, it is strawberry days. I put up a dozen or so jars of preserves, but I remembered how wonderful strawberry-filled crumb cakes were. My family is Norwegian, so we always made our pie in crumb cakes instead of a pie crust. It's a lot easier to eat and lots more fun. I've had that pleasure since I was a little girl." Follet picked up the light, crispy cone and took a bite. "Delicious. It's so sweet." Alice smiled. "I'm glad you like it. I'll let you eat. Let me know if you'd like anything else." The coffee was black and hot, and the perfect complement to the berries and waffle cookie. Follet let himself go and concentrated on the food. And then he felt it. If he had never felt it before, he would have turned around expecting to see someone calling his name. But it wasn't really anything that he heard. It was a call that beckoned to him, softly, irresistibly demanding his attention. He finished the pastry and coffee and motioned to Alice. "Who should I talk to get a room for the night?" "Well," Alice smirked, "I'm the waitress as well as the motel manager, but I don't get off duty till 2 a.m. Follet chuckled. "Thanks, Alice, but I'm going to need some rest tonight." She nodded and said, "I'll get you the key to room 10. It's on the far end, away from the pumps and the other clients. We can settle up in the morning, one way or another," and gave Follet the tiniest and most sincere of winks. Follet smiled and looked deeply into the woman's green eyes. "Thanks, Alice. I'd like that. I'd like that a lot." Alice went back to the counter and returned with a styrofoam cup full of coffee and the key to room 10. "Sleep tight," she told him. Follet went out to his car and drove to room 10. He parked, grabbed his suitcase from the back seat, and walked over to open the door to his room. A bed, a dresser, a sagging chair. He went to the corner, dropped his suitcase in the closet, and reached up to turn on the fan. He turned around and saw the bathroom. A stuttering fluorescent light flashed on the mustard yellow tile. Shower, toilet, sink, and almost enough room to turn around. But the call. He turned on the television and found a rerun of Law and Order. He sat on the edge of the bed, bounced a couple of times, then crossed the room to his suitcase. He opened it and removed his shaving kit and a pair of sneakers. He went back to the bed, sat down, slipped off his boots, and slipped on and tied up the sneakers. The call. Follet checked that the curtains were closed and left the television and a light on and the bedside table on, put his key in his pocket, and walked out of the door. He walked back to the diner. Room 9, room 8. The call was getting stronger. Room 6, almost there. Room 5. He stopped outside the window to room 5, just before he reached the door and looked around. No one. And then he walked through the wall and into her dream.